The number one step is to let go of your ideals, because so many people have these ideals. Real estate is not idealistic, because the easiest way to get a rental property is to buy one and live in it. But I say get rid of your ideals because there's so many people out there that don't own a home. They're like, yeah, but my first house has to have a yard. It has to be big enough. I'm like, yeah, but you're not going to live in it forever. You need to be buying your first rental right now. And after a year and a half, 2 years, move out and then buy your house. And that's how you got your first rental property. But your ideals about what your house has to be prevented you from buying a rental property at 5% down.
Because you weren't thinking about like what the long-term benefit of it was and what it could do for someone else.
Yeah, like my first house was like 1,037 square feet, and the yard sucked, and it was just a disaster. But I was like, no, I'll keep it though. That's the easiest way to get rentals, especially for like your people that can't save a ton of money every month, because when you're buying a primary residence, you can always put 5% down on the next house, and you can offset the mortgage of the old house, because you're like, well, I can't qualify for two. You offset the mortgage payment on your application by the projected rental income. Okay, I bought a $350,000 townhome and I put 5% down. Fast forward a little while, now I'm going to go buy a $450,000 Rambler and put 5% down. And then you fast forward 3 years, like we really do need a minimum of 2,000 square feet for our family. I've saved up another 5%. Well, let's buy our 3,000 square foot home that might be our real house now. And look at what you did. You spent 5%, 5%, 5%, and you now own 3 homes. As opposed to the guy that's like, I've got to save 20% down to buy my rental. Now, to the person that truly lives in their house, it's like, no, we're in our forever home. We're not going to move out of it and make this a rental. It'd be a crappy rental. You got to save money. The minimum amount down on a rental property, if the intent upon purchase is to rent it out, because in those other situations, the intent upon purchase was to occupy it, the minimum amount down is 15%, which is a lot of us, right? Like I'm in a house that I want to stay in. So like the next rental I grew up by, I've got to put that much money down.
What risks do you expose yourself to when you do the concept that we just talked about?
You can mitigate the risks of property problems by home warranties and insurance policies. It's like, the AC unit went out on my rental. It's put me in a pinch. You know, you hear guys talk like that. And if you get the right home warranty and renew it every year, the right insurance policy, you can kind of protect yourself against anything going wrong with the property. So really the only risk is, what are the odds of not being able to find a renter? And the reality is you'll always find a renter. You might need but your payment might be $1,800 and you can only find someone willing to pay $1,500. And then you just need to look at your finances, and then it's like, horrible situation, probably not likely to happen. If it did, can I float my own rental $300 a month? And the answer is usually yes, because if you're the type of person that saved up enough money to buy the rental in the first place, it means you save money and you can float yourself $300 a month. Back to what I said, don't be idealistic. Always look at the market at all times. People are like, well, we'll look for a rental next year. It's not the right time for us. So you think the right property's going to wait till you're ready to look? I come across offensive if I talk to clients that way, but it's just true though. So what I say to my clients is, yeah, like whatever's best for you. In reality, it's like, if you can pull it off and you're pre-approved to buy a rental, the longer you look, the higher the chance you are of finding the right one.
And don't limit yourself perhaps to like the market that you're in, like perhaps.
Yeah, and there's the whole clan of people out there, probably the majority of society, that wants to time the market. Like, good luck with that. Yeah, we think next year this is going to happen, so that'll be the ideal time to buy a rental.
But everybody thinks that.
I'm like, okay, yeah, so hop on board with the other 5,000 people in town that are going to buy a rental next year. How do you think the market's going to fare when that happens? It actually won't drop at all.
There's a quote from Tim Ferriss. Most people will choose unhappiness over uncertainty. Why is accepting uncertainty an important component of making money?
Well, this is really only a question and a comment for the people that care to, obviously, because there are millions and probably billions of people that just deep down in their core, they don't think that their lifestyle is underserved and they are happy with their 9-to-5 salary. There are people like that, right? They truly don't think about more than that. And those are great people. But then there's this large group of people that live that way and don't want it. And my only thought to those people is there is certainty and uncertainty.
Hey, new beginnings on the cusp. Not too old to adjust. Old dog, new tricks. Remember, I was just a
I
punk.
remember that I had this opportunity to let go of steady pay with a really, really high ceiling, but it was uncertain. And the only thing that my mind fixated on was the uncertainty. And it was like that for like a month. But I hated the fact that my set pay, that even though it brought certainty in my life, I hated the lifestyle that it trapped me into. And after like a month and a half, I'll never forget the moment. My option was to become a commission-based loan officer or to stay at a bank with just a salary that wasn't much, but it was enough. And I was so scared of going out on my own, right? And I was driving down the boulevard. I was crossing over I-15, about to get to River Road in St. George. This thought popped into my head, which was, Mike, you need $2,500 a month to live. The average commission on a loan is like $2,000. If you're going to work 8 hours a day at a minimum 20 days a month, and if you know in your heart that you're not going to sit on your butt and read ESPN articles at the office, are you actually going to go solicit mortgage loans from people every day for 8 hours? And I told myself, absolutely. I've never doubted my work ethic. I was like, okay, done. I called my wife, and she was uncertain like me. And I said, I'm doing it.
Because she hadn't followed that path that you.
Yeah. And I said, no, hold on. I was like, listen, hear me out. Do you believe I'm going to work 8 hours a day and actually work the whole time, not just be away from the house at the office? Am I actually going to, I like to be very descriptive, I'm actually going to solicit mortgage loans 8 hours a day with every person that I see. And I'll try to find people all day, every day. I said, do you believe that I'll do it if I promise you I'll do it? She says, yeah, I know you'll put in the work. And I said, then you've got to trust me. I know it'll work. And then this certain logic finally crept into my mind and it said, well, then how on earth could you ever fail? Since that day, I've had more trust in myself than in others. It's actually more stable. If you're willing to commit to work every day, a self-employed job's way more stable than a salaried job.
But like the most addicting thing is like heroin, carbs, a salary. You know, I've heard that so many different times, but what is your take on that?
My advice is really only for the person that's never complacent. To that person that's just in their heart, they're like, I hate being here. I hate having to be here no matter how much money I make. I don't like having a boss. Take inventory of yourself. What's your strengths? What's your weaknesses? Do you trust yourself? You can make it pretty simple, right? Like there's so much you can, if you're smart and patient, you can make certainty doing an uncertain thing. I'm going to save for the next year this much money every month so that I can survive for a year or 6 months or whatever without any income, so that now there is some certainty when I break off on my own.
Find what you love and let it kill you. What are you currently pouring yourself into that's quote unquote killing you?
So right now, nothing's changed since the day that I had that epiphany on the road. Every day I wake up and I'm like, I need to solicit mortgage loans all day long. And even in the office, when I sit there and I talk to people, you know, like, hey, like, did you see the game last night or this or that? I love those conversations. Sometimes I even start them. But after like 10 minutes, I'm like, I get antsy. I'm like, I have to go get back on the phone because I'm wasting my time.
One day you wake up and you're poor. Like, I'm not talking about like you're back to where you were before you made the transition from being a W-2 employee to an entrepreneur. but you're below that. Like you haven't felt
You don't
the
have any
depths.
money.
Yeah, you haven't felt the depths of like uncertainty in this way before. Like what systems do you have in place to deal with that?
Yeah, so I've never dealt with it. My partner has. The founder of the company that I bought into experienced that. In like 2009, he said that for the first time in his life, he had maxed out his credit card debt and didn't have any money to make payment the next month on anything. And this was, he's in the loan industry, and you're talking about the '08 crash, right? And that wasn't an immediate, people lost money overnight. Yes, some did, but it trickled down, and like the massive blow of that hit people at different stages, depending on how much savings you had, what you could sell and survive and all that. And so that happened to him, and he was like, I no longer even had an office. The mortgage company I worked for had went under, and I worked for one across they didn't have an office in town, so I'm working from home. And he's like, and that was compounding the problem because like I didn't meet with clients, I'm at home and I'm just depressed, and now I'm not dressing right every day, and I just mope into the office. And he's like, I was in a spiral. And he's like, and I was about to go bankrupt. But he had not yet defaulted on single payment. But he was about to, right? He's like, oh, well, this is the part where I think people start defaulting. And he said, I just remember, he said that he talked to a friend that day. And the friend didn't know the gravity of his situation. And the friend knew that everybody was struggling at the time. And the friend said something to him that was fascinating. He said, I don't get why when people are down and out, why don't they just get up and work harder? He says it doesn't make any sense. There's no logic to, if you can still speak and walk and move around, like you can still benefit. Why don't you just work hard?
Said that to him?
That's what he said to my friend. Yeah.
Oh, that's so direct.
But what's funny is he didn't know that he was the ultimate guy that.
There was like an accident.
Yeah. And Russ was like, it just hit me like a ton of bricks. Kind of like my moment driving down the road. It was just like, yeah, what? I'm not working. I'm so depressed I stopped working.
I didn't realize I stopped trying.
Yeah, right. He's like, I just went back to my daily activities and I just started working again. And he's like, and guess what, Mike? I closed a few loans the next month and made all my payments. There's like an inner cleansing and an inner peace that comes from straight up falling flat on your face. February, March, April, sometime earlier this year, for the first time in my career, like a chain of events happened that I fell flat on my face, like in my career. Like I think I had, as a loan guy, I think I had like maybe $5 million in volume just cancel in a 3-day period of time, which was enough money. I have some reserves, so it didn't kill me, but it was a lot of money. It was months and months and months worth of work and could have fed my family for months. And it was just the weirdest thing. In like a week, it just all disappeared. And I was back to square one. Obviously not square. I still have relationships and people that refer business. There's so many positives at any time. But in that moment, I was just like, there's nothing left to do. Like, there's nothing to work on because there's nothing there. There's no clients to call. There's no anything. I have nothing right now. At first you're like, oh, woe is me, my life sucks. But then you're like, you kind of wake up the next day and you're like, I'm still here. Like, I'm still happy. Like, life's fine. And like I said, it's like this cleansing. It gives you perspective and it makes it okay to fail. So that same guy that I was telling you about that kind of worked his way out of it, he has a sticky note on his monitor that says, stay neutral. And I guessed what it meant, but I asked him to make sure. I was like, what does that mean? He's like, it means that no matter how much money I'm making or losing, I need to stay neutral. Because he's like, I've made everything and I've lost everything. And the only thing that keeps you humble when you get everything and keeps you going when you lose everything is the neutral, just daily, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep climbing, keep climbing, keep climbing.
what are the things that a person needs to do to become the type of person that makes money?
You've got to be highly motivated and willing to work really hard, because we talked about the fear and all this different stuff, some of the mental roadblocks to certain things, and highly motivated people overcome those things within time. If you're strategic and smart with your plan, and then you put in the work ethic, it's probably going to work.